Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 182 of the Runnin the Paint Podcast. I'm Miles here with Ben and Nick. Guys, how are you doing today?
Feeling good, feeling great, except not feeling all that great or good. Down one member of the pod, but that's all right. We're gonna three-man weave it. Got playoffs right around the corner, so we got a jam-packed episode. We're gonna bring you all the action. I'm excited.
For sure. Poor Joey. The snow has come back in Northeast Ohio, so have the migraines across the board. So hope you are all staying safe out there. Joey, we'll hold it down for you. We got the nice three-man weave like we always do. And we got a packed one here today. As Nick said, we are nearly in March of the regular season, which means we are getting some big time matchups here in the regular season and finally getting to start to see these competitive teams and see what they're actually made of here. So excited to break down some big games that happened over this past weekend. But to start off, we have POELTL. Let's see how we can do today. First player we are going to guess an unfortunate injury that recently occurred from the Phoenix Suns, Dylan Brooks, who is going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. Let's see what he can get us. All right, it's going to be a 6'8 or 6'9, most likely forward in the Eastern Conference that is below 28 years old and wears a higher jersey number than 5. Ben, what do you think we could do here then? What do you think could be a good next guess?
Uh, well, somebody more younger. I would hit the assume that's a forward of some sort. Man, they're
We
this tough. You could give multiple guys. Maybe somebody's played on some different teams.
Yeah, a guy with multiple teams may not be bad. That's a little younger. I mean, obviously because we're all Cavs fans here. First team that came to my mind was Dean Wade because I think he would fit all the other stuff. But I think maybe if you're right, maybe another guy that's played for other teams wouldn't be bad. Like a maybe I don't know.
I was
uh,
thinking Paolo off the rip, but he hasn't played for multiple teams. Why are you guys saying multiple teams?
Well, Paulo is also the number 5, so he'd be
Hmm.
highlighted yellow there. Let's go with Dean Wade and see where that gets us because I
all
don't think
right, we'll do.
that's too far off. All right, there we go. Six
Well,
nine forward
yes,
uh, in the Eastern Conference that is not in the Central Division, so this will not be the Pistons, Bucks, Pacers, Bulls, or the Cavaliers.
Is B-ball Paul 6'9"?
He's on the Pistons, so he'd be the Central.
Oh, I thought he was on the Sixers still. That was years ago right now.
Uh, let's see, man.
Tobias Harris? No, Pistons.
Yeah, no,
Not
the
the
Pistons.
Sixers.
Woo! All right, New York. Maybe we could go with. Man, how old is? Oh well, this guy's a forward slash center, so that's why you're thinking that. That's actually not bad. Oh, you know who just a recent addition to the Eastern Conference is Jeremy Sohan, who just signed with the Knicks like a week or two ago. Has recently played for them. But try it. What do you guys think?
I think that's a good guess.
right him. Yeah.
All right, let's go with it. Jeremy Sohan. Oh man,
Ooh,
nearly got it. Are you kidding?
well,
Num- Atlantic Division, either number 21 or number 22. That's going to be 21 or 20. So a young guy. So this could be like a Noah Clowney or a Jalen Wilson from the Brooklyn Nets. Those are. I think it's one of those two guys.
Hmm. I don't think
Or
Wilson is 6'9". I don't know.
no, I don't. I don't think he'd be listed as a center. I don't think
Yeah,
Clowney would either, but Clowney might fit better. Who else is there?
Clowney.
Claw.
Clowney would fit better of a
Yeah,
guess.
Let's try it. All right, we got it.
It's him. Yeah.
nice
Noah
job, Miles.
Clowney. Noah
Carried.
Clowney in 4. All right, let us know how long it took you guys to get to Noah Clowney. But now let's get into some of the great games that occurred over the last few days. We got 5 games to cover here that were marqueed and showed across the league as we lose Nick for a little bit. Ben, let's start off here with a game that we had tonight as we recorded Monday night, a battle between Ben, two of your favorite teams, the San Antonio Spurs and the Detroit Pistons, two of the more surprising teams coming into the season, two of the three best records in the entire NBA facing off here. And San Antonio was able to get the victory 114 to 103 to snap a little bit of a winning streak for the Pistons and continue their own winning streak. I believe that's now 8 wins in a row for San Antonio. Nick, what were some of your biggest takeaways from the Spurs pulling out this victory in a physical, tough, hard-fought game?
Yeah, defense was great in this one, especially in the first half. Like you said, tough, physical. Um, Baskets were difficult to come by. I think Detroit shot under 30% from downtown. Um, and the Spurs are really good. That's what I took away from this game. Having a guy like Wemby who can do things that nobody else can and block shots like nobody else can, and then having weapons to go along. Like De'Aaron Fox doesn't take a great shot every possession, but he does enough to get other guys involved, and that kind of like gets them going. I think he's a good enough point guard to like lead a team into multiple rounds of playoffs. And having a guy like Wemby on top of that with a really deep roster is a really good recipe. So San Antonio is very good. That's what I took away. Uh, in the third quarter, they ended up pulling away. Just like it was a 4 or 5 point game for most of the game. Like I don't think either team had more than a 2 or 3 possession lead for almost the entire first half. Um, but then San Antonio went up 10, just with back-to-back buckets after having a 4 or 5 point lead. They hit a three and got a stop, and then got another bucket, and then they didn't look back from there. They were able to hold on to a double-digit lead and keep Detroit at an arm's length, and that's what good teams do against teams that are at the top of the opposite conference. Like there was a really good performance from everybody. Devin Vassell, 7 threes, 28 points. Yeah, it was even guys off the bench like Keldon Johnson and Dylan Harper, like they make an impact when they're out there on both ends.
Yeah, Ben, I think that is definitely a big takeaway. I mean, the Spurs really are a very good team. Now, how will these two teams fare in the playoffs? That's the question, because these are two teams that don't have that playoff, experience, that extensive playoff experience. But you look at a performance like this from the Spurs, where you look at the Spurs' two best players, Wembanyama and Fox. Fox doesn't shoot the ball that well. Wembanyama, for most of it, looked like he was getting bodied up, but then ends up having a great stat line. But either way, Ben, a lot of other guys were able to get involved, and that's really what you see out there is all the depth that San Antonio has on their team.
Yeah, well, I think the Spurs value, like they have for a while as an organization, just playing great team ball. I don't think those guys totally care about the stats. They just want to try to do what's best for the team and get the win. And the main thing was they did that tonight, and they looked great while doing that. And I've noticed with Spurs games, different guys have been able to step up in games, be like their leading scorer or something, or make a big impact in some way. Obviously, you mentioned Devin Vassell led them tonight with the scoring, but it really just Wemby continuing to somehow play well, even with tough defense from Detroit. It just goes to show you that he can just keep fighting hard and just he I guess more so kicked it out the other guys of the Spurs, so it was hard to find shots on the inside for 1B, and everybody just played well on the Spurs. We mentioned already to help contribute to a win for them, and they're now on a 9-game winning streak. They haven't lost in February, is what I noticed as well with San Antonio, so they're getting hot.
Yeah, no question about it. 9-game winning streak, and this is the first of a 5-game road trip, all against Eastern Conference teams before returning home for 6 games. Nick, on the Pistons side of things, the Spurs defense was just very tough. I mean, coming out strong defensively was what the Spurs did, and it really made things difficult for the Pistons to get inside and get shots to go. But they ended up finding a bit of a rhythm. They brought that physicality to the table. But either way, offensively, you look at what they finish shooting from the inside, from 3-point land, and overall, just not an efficient game from the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, I think Cade missed like triple the shots that he made or something. Like only had 5 or 6 field goals and missed 15 or 16, 17, something like that.
Yeah, let's see, 5 for 26.
Yeah.
Which is not a good recipe when you're. I mean, again, the Pistons are already a team where they've been so good, but it's been because of their defense, and then Cade is their all-star superstar type of offensive creator. But this is a type of game where you kind of see the concerns about them going into the playoffs, where if Cunningham isn't shooting the ball well, who is the next guy that's going to be able to create shots? And in this game, they shoot 7 for 36 from three as a team. I mean, it's basically non-existent offensively. Most of their points, I feel like, came off of offensive rebounds and putbacks right at the basket.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, you got the run there to clean some of it up, but that's more difficult when you have a tough matchup like Vic. Yeah, it's tough with the Pistons rather figuring out where the scoring's going to come from if Cade's having an off night because they don't really have a lot of guys who can handle the ball. Like you look at Dennis Jenkins and think that he can have a good quarter or a good couple of stints and stuff and like get you through parts of the game, but not by any means are you gonna like rely on him in a playoff series to initiate consistently. So yeah, they don't have a lot of answers in terms of that, and I would say they're probably looking for somebody to step up still.
Yeah, Ben, what do you think the Pistons need to do to try to get through this sort of situation? Because I mean, this is the first really roadblock that they've had in a little while. I mean, they're going on this tough stretch that they've got here that we'll talk about in a little bit. But over the last week or so, they picked up another couple of impressive victories over the New York Knicks, which is something that we weren't able to really talk about on the podcast. How for 3 straight games in the regular season series, Detroit completely beat around New York, out rebounded them, out toughed them, and just completely dominated them. I mean, the 3-game season series, the Pistons won by 84 points. Like, it wasn't even close. But then you have, this sort of game where San Antonio is just able to have the defenders and the game plan discipline to execute this sort of plan against the Pistons. And when the shots aren't going, it's just a struggle to watch.
Yeah, I think the Pistons, when they played the Knicks this year, have been able to match up good somehow against them. I think that's been part of what's been helping them with their success against New York. But for San Antonio, it seemed like a difficult matchup with them tonight. They struggled to get baskets, had a hard time keeping up with San Antonio with scoring. And San Antonio, was able to get up by some points, pull away in that game, and it's tough, their big's going to be up against the Wemby. That's a new big challenge for them there that they had. But I mean, Durham didn't do too bad, I don't think, in that game. Still put up a nice number of points, but you guys are right. The problem that wasn't great for the Pistons. It was just, not not the best with the ball handling and the shot creation and stuff. And the Pistons do have Duncan Robinson there, and yeah, he didn't do too much tonight. And for the Pistons, he could be a weapon for free. I would hope he can have some more big games from there. And yeah, it's tough to rely on Jenkins when he's young, but keep developing him and see maybe he'll come along and get hot somewhere potentially. He got hot in one game against the Cavs that was at, so you never know with him. But I believe the Pistons can bounce back and figure it out. But yeah, tough loss for them tonight, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, this might just be one of those situations where the Spurs are just the matchup nightmare for the Pistons, Nick, where if you're the Pistons, your offense is kind of created in the paint and off your defense and in fast break opportunities. But Wembanyama's down there to protect the paint. So if the paint's clogged off, your threes aren't going in, which again, they're not a very good 3-point shooting team. And Duncan Robinson only goes 3 for 11. Like if all that gets cut off, then they just don't really have a chance besides on the glass, which they were able to do a great job. I mean, they had 20 offensive rebounds in this game. But Nick, do you think this was just a case tonight of the Spurs just maybe being the ultimate bad matchup for them?
Well, if that's the case, then the Spurs are the ultimate bad matchup for the top two teams in each of the conferences, and that. But I mean, to answer the question, yeah, I guess. I think it says more about the Spurs, like how we started the conversation, like just the fact that they are really good. Um, yeah, Detroit like is good enough to beat most teams on most nights. I don't know if they're good enough to beat the the Spurs on most nights though. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing before we move on to the next game, Ben, as someone who is definitely was a Pistons believer coming into this season, obviously, they've been playing really, really well. Does a night like this concern you if you're a Piston fan because of, how this sort of this game's went against another championship, caliber team in the Spurs?
Well, I think with the Pistons, I'm concerned with them a bit with their 3-point shooting and shot creation. Showed tonight. Kate could use some more help out there with that, even though they got Katie, is a great leader for them and great with all that. But I hope it could somehow mesh more together. But they have done really well. They've been impressive throughout the year, like how I predicted them before the start of the year, and I believe they'll continue to be pretty good, and this could be a good learning lesson lost for them.
Yeah, I will say that in the playoffs, you make adjustments after a loss like this and come back and try and hit more shots in the next game and figure out ways to get more stops and stuff like that. So that's what they would try and do in the playoffs. I just don't know like what the game plan adjustments would be when you're kind of handcuffed by the fact that Cade's your only initiator.
Yeah, and the move they made at the trade deadline to try to improve their offense to trade Jaden Ivey for Kevin Herter. Kevin Herter's not even in their rotation, so they basically are, sticking with the same team there. And we'll see if Kevin Herter can get his shot together and then get back in the lineup. But, it definitely will be interesting to see the two teams play again in a little over a week or so on Thursday, March 5th in San Antonio. Once the Spurs get back from this road trip, they host Detroit. So that will definitely be time to see if the Pistons can respond here as they continue this crazy stretch. Next game, let's go to Sunday. There are 3 games on Sunday to talk about here. First, let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder, a game that ended up being a Thunder victory. The Thunder shorthanded without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, J-Dub, AJ Mitchell, and Alex Caruso were able to hand the Cavs their first loss with James Harden, 121 to 113. They got off to a crazy start, had a 28-5 lead before the Cavs woke up, got back in the game, had the lead for a little bit in the third quarter, couldn't get the road victory there on Sunday. Nick, what were your biggest, your first takeaways from that game in OKC?
Yeah, definitely a difficult start for 12:30 local time. I mean, honestly, think about it. Cleveland should have had the advantage because if they're on Cleveland time, it would be 2:30 start or 3:30, whatever. It would have been later in the afternoon, and OKC had a local time. It was like a 12:30 start. But regardless, you got on 28-5, and then you win the rest of the game by 15 or 17 or so. So you can at least hang your hat on that. But yeah, the my point in our group chat after the game was like they put themselves in a position to make it a winnable game. Like at the beginning, it wasn't a winnable game, but they put themselves in a position to make it a winnable game. So it was a winnable game, and they were completely healthy. And OKC was missing what, three of their top seven guys. I think I heard someone saying Caruso, J Dub, and Shea. So I think the bottom line is you got to find a way to win those games. And there was a couple of late possessions where they had it down to a possession or two, and like you got to find a way to come up with those long rebounds. There was two long rebounds that OKC was able to burn extra time off, and I think Isaiah Joe or one of their guys hit a three on a long tip out, and yeah, that was the nail in the coffin at the end of the fourth quarter there because the Cavs couldn't get the possession back.
Yeah, Ben, some of the shot making from OKC was just crazy. I mean, they went 21 for 41 from three. And a lot of them I thought, were pretty, solid contests, but Thunder were able to knock down threes and they were able to get those extra possessions to end the game. They forced a ton of turnovers to start. That was another thing. The Cavs had 10 turnovers in the first quarter. I mean, really, it was the first 5-6 minutes that did the Cavs in there. But Ben, what were some of your takeaways about how that game went on both sides?
Yeah, the Thunder was quite impressive. Their 3-point shooting there, that was a part of making it hard for the Cavs to really be close early on in the game. But 10 turnovers in the first quarter, you absolutely cannot have that. Hard to find really any recipe of success when that happens. And I know Harden, yeah, he had multiple bad turnovers. What I saw from highlights early on in that game, it's like with some of those pitches, what is this Harden like? But I think the Cavs were a bit tired in that game. They, did just travel from Charlotte, played on close, crazy game there Friday night. It was Sunday afternoon, but still, it doesn't come as an excuse to me and why the Cavs should be bad. They need to learn from this loss for sure because there's things they got to clean up now with Harden in the mix. And yeah, Harden, he kind of bounced back later in the game. He had a decent game, but not a great game to say. Since he had rough turnovers, kind of struggled defensively and stuff. And Mobley, unfortunately, he had 2 rebounds. That's not the best, but he did just come back from injury. He could hopefully improve on more. But yeah, the rebounding is kind of concerning, as Nick brought up. But Kids kind of stayed even with the Thunder. The rebounding count those somehow in the game. And yeah, just I am proud of the kids fight though, because like early on with that start, they could have maybe have kind of given up and it was just a huge blowout. But they they kind of surprised me though when I was looking at the score, watching. They made a good comeback, and fortunately, they couldn't really make some plays at the end that they had to learn from as well. But with it, them just coming from Charlotte looking kind of tired. It's good. They should good fight, but yeah, somehow once again like last year struggle against the Thunder and OKC. The Thunder seemed to be a hard team for the Cavs.
Yeah, I mean the thing you mentioned about the fatigue coming in, it is interesting. I don't think it is a more of an excuse. I think it is a fact. I think the stat is they came in, so they had played on Thursday night, Friday night, and then Sunday at 1 o'clock, which is basically playing 3 straight days. And I want to say that teams in those situations are like 21 and 51 over the last like 5 to 6 years. So it's proven, factual. Teams are, it's just not a good situation. So I feel like on a scheduling, sort of note there, the league needs to make sure to not have contending team matchups be, in
Yeah.
that sort of
Yeah, I
situation.
agree.
But regardless, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a situation where the Thunder don't have their four best players, but you see why they're such an amazing team, a championship team, because I think this was a system win for the Thunder because the defense that they played, they physically were not allowing the Cavs to dribble into their sets to start the game. I mean, it really was impressive to see what they were able to do here. Um, Mitchell finally had a solid game against the Thunder. The Thunder had been an awful matchup for him for several years. Same thing with Harden. Both of them were okay. Sam Merrill was huge to keep them in the game. Jaron Allen, a guy where, he only had 6 shot attempts in this game. He's been playing so great recently. So they're going to need to make sure to get him more involved so he can, have more of an impact on the game offensively. But I'm gonna be interested to see what happens with the Cavs over the rest of the season because again, this was their first loss in a while. They were the hottest team in the league going into the game, but with the trades they made all throughout the deadline, bringing in those 3 players, it's kind of interesting because although we're near the end of February, it's almost like the coaching staff is kind of like, all right, we're finally back healthy. We have a new team. It's kind of like they're back in October a little bit
Yeah.
because trying to make all these rotations. And I think the number one guy that's had to make the biggest adjustment and sacrifice has been Jalen Tyson, who was in a huge, role earlier in the season with all the injuries. And with the Harden addition and guys coming back and getting healthy, Tyson has gone from being, the starting small forward to basically being the backup power forward for this team because they've decided to go with Dean Wade as the starting 3. Nick, what do you think about the rotations that we've seen from the Cavs so far, going with Wade in that starting 5 along with the 4 other star players? And if you think maybe they should switch something up so Tyson can get back into his groove?
I think what you said is right. I think they're probably like tinkering with it and figuring out different lineups that work well together and different lineups that don't. They probably are treating it like an early part of the season, considering they'll be a top 6 playoff team unless something drastic changes that. And they want to know like what their best lineups are going into the playoffs. So I think they're probably going to use this time to do that. Yeah, I do think that since Jalen Tyson had so much early season success in that role that he was in, they would eventually like look to bring him back into that towards the end of the season and try their best to figure out how to get him more minutes in like the positions that he was thriving in. Because you're right, he has had to sacrifice. They brought in like 3 guards who like are going to be asked to kind of play bigger minutes. Like sometimes I don't know if Keon or Schroeder or James are gonna ever play like the 3 like Tyson, but there's just less room in the rotation, and he's had to make an adjustment, and either he's gonna adjust and figure it out and start playing better, or I think they probably look to get him back into the role that he was thriving in.
Yeah, Ben, what are your thoughts on kind of the Cavs rotation?
Seemed like to me, Kenny has been experimenting with the lineups, and yeah, I think with the way I've seen it go so far for experimenting the lineups, I would like him to try Tyson with some more minutes and seeing how that goes. I think Tyson, at times could be pretty impactful, like defensively, especially. He's pretty good on that end, and yeah, it's tricky. I've minded him playing, Keon and Schroeder good minutes off the bench just to see how they are on the new team, of course, and then I've been cool with the starting lineup he's been running recently. Been all right with Dean Wade starting at the 3. I think he's a pretty good defender. I think he just fits the starting lineup good. I don't think for now we should make any changes there. And yeah, overall, I don't have too much to complain about the lineups, but just keep experimenting and hope to get something figured out by playoff time.
Yeah, and just try to stay as healthy as possible and try to get as much consistency with those guys getting together. Because, of course, the rest of the season, although they are very talented, they are playing against history as far as the fact that there really hasn't been a team in a long time to make a super deep playoff run after making such a big trade to bring in a guy like James Harden. So we'll see what happens. Of course, with this team, they are so deep. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but with guys coming back into the lineup, and if Max Strus comes back, guys are going to have to lose minutes, and unfortunately Jalen Tyson might be one of those. Naquan Tomlin will probably be out of the mix.
Craig Porter.
Craig Porter, yeah, has been out. So there's that's part of the problem that you have when you have such a deep team. But excited to see what the Cavs do. They have a nice few tests coming up, and when they host the New York Knicks tonight on Peacock at 7:30 in Cleveland, they return home, and then they take on the Pistons in Detroit on Friday, and then host them next Tuesday. So a whole lot of tests coming up for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But overall, it's been fun to see them so far with Harden, and another terrific victory for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Almost had a similar game happen immediately after the Thunder Cavs with the Denver Nuggets losing to the Golden State Warriors 128 to 117, despite the Warriors only having 9 available players at their disposal, including no Steph Curry, no Jimmy Butler, of course, out for the season. Porzingis got sick again, so he was out. No Draymond Green. But it didn't matter. The Warriors got crazy performances from everyone really that played. Podziemski had 18, 15, and 9 off the bench. They made 21 threes, and they were able to withstand a 35, 20, and 12 game from Nikola Jokic. Now, bring up this game because something that we haven't really been talking about on here is the Denver Nuggets as of late and the play, the performances from them since Nikola Jokic has come back from his injury. It's kind of completely backwards. Remember when he went out with that the injury in Miami, they were winning without him. They were playing great. A lot of their role players were stepping up. But since Jokic has been back, they have gone 4-6 since their star players returned. So Ben, what do you make of this situation for the Denver Nuggets?
So I think for Denver, they've been putting up good number of points on offense. They've done this in their games recently. I think it's more so to the defensive side recently where they've struggled on. And Aaron Gordon, he has been out, and I do think they missed him in the lineup. He's a pretty good defender. He's been impactful for them on that end. I'm sure they can't wait to get him back. So when they get him back, closer towards the playoffs, that'll definitely help. And yeah, it's give it up, just open space the guys for shots like against the Clippers and the Warriors. That helped them score points. Ben Bathroom went crazy against them, and the time they played the Clippers won that in a close one, and they struggled to defend the free and the Warriors game, and yeah, it's been tough for them really to play with good physicality. I would say on defense recently. I guess some guys got to step up, be more physical on the defensive end. But against Portland, they somehow had their biggest win. They had they won by a ton of points. So I think it was like one of the most amount of points they won by.
A 54-point win.
Yeah, that was one of their largest wins in franchise history, I think. And so the offense seems to be clicking. I think just they need more consistency on the defense and other guys stepping up there.
Yeah, I think you're right on with that. Aaron Gordon, who quietly has only played in 23 games this season because of just nagging injuries. I didn't even realize the numbers here. When taking a look at the defensive rating for the Nuggets when Gordon is on versus when he's off the floor this season, when Aaron Gordon is on the floor, the Nuggets have a defensive rating of 108.9, which would be third in the entire league, only trailing Detroit and Oklahoma City. But when he's off the floor, they go from 108.9 to 117.7, which is bottom 5 in the league around the Pelicans. So, I
Jeez.
mean, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he's one of the more impactful defenders in the Western Conference. And I think Ben is, completely spot on right there.
Yeah, and their second best defender is probably Peyton Watson, and he's also out. So that doesn't help the equation. But I mean, they did get Cam Johnson back. Like Jamal Murray's healthy to an extent. Um, Christian Brown is back. So like this is sort of, I mean, even when they won their championship, like sort of who they are. Have like a middling to decent defense and then an unstoppable offense with an MVP level guy who just averages a triple double. So we will see if that will be enough again this year come playoff time. We've been saying all year that Joker's probably got his best supporting cast, and I think they have as good a chance as any that they've had. So when they get those two guys back, it'll be interesting to see if they can get to that better defensive rating number. But yeah, this Golden State game, I wouldn't be super worried about it. Like, I think everyone in the NBA is a pro and like they don't look past games or take anything for granted. But like if you're walking into Golden State and you've won a championship and you see like it's Al Horford and Brandon Pajemski leading the team across from you, I mean, I don't know. You think about that stuff. So
Yeah, I think subconsciously, like you're gonna, maybe let your guard down a little bit. We'll see over these next few games, of course, as these big games ramp up here for Denver. They've got some big tests coming up as well. They play Boston on Wednesday night, who we're about to get to here. They take on OKC on Friday on the road, and then they host Minnesota on Sunday afternoon. So, 3 games in a row here coming up where we'll see if, the defense really is something that we need to be worried about. And hopefully Aaron Gordon can be back. So I'll go see what his, timetable is. But is there a world? I was listening to the Hoop Collective today, and they made an interesting point that Aaron Gordon may be the 4th most important player in the entire Western Conference playoff picture, because I think they probably went with Shea, Jokic, Wemby, and then Aaron Gordon, because they made the point that if Aaron Gordon isn't available for this team, then they may not be a championship contending team. Do you guys think that's agreeable there?
yeah, well, I would say that in order to have that perspective, or like you're looking through the lens of the fact that there's really two top contending teams, um, with maybe the Spurs having an outside shot, and Wemby's the best player on that third team. And like Aaron Gordon's a game changing piece for one of those top two teams, and he makes a huge impact. And if he's healthy and available, that puts them like a level up than if he's not.
Yeah, for sure. Looking at Aaron Gordon with the hamstring injury, 25 days ago, it was reported that he was going to be reevaluated in 4 to 6 weeks. So we're a few days away from being in that 4 to 6 week time frame where we'll see if there is an update on Gordon. Because I definitely think Denver needs him back and have some games here to try to ramp up before the playoffs so that Denver can try to get a good matchup and good seeding so they don't have to have a disadvantageous bracket like they kind of did last year where they had to take on a good Clipper team and then OKC in round 2. So I think that's going to be their biggest priority. And right now they barely have a, lead for the 3 seed over, the Rockets, the Lakers, the Wolves, and all that. So yeah, definitely interested to see what happens with Denver going forward. But yeah, 4-6 in their last 10 since Jokic has come back. We'll see if that's something that we need to look at going forward. Next game, Let's talk about the Celtics and the Lakers, the most storied rivalry in the history of the NBA. Had another chapter in LA, the second and final meeting of the regular season on Sunday night. It was Pat Riley Day as his statue was unveiled in front of the crypto.com arena. I believe that's like the seventh or eighth statue
I
there
think it's
in
8th.
LA. Eighth, yes,
I think so.
which is crazy. So congratulations to Pat Riley. He had some nice quotes from his speech and then his interview. But for the actual game, Boston continued to dominate. They blew out the Lakers 111-89, led by Jaylen Brown, but Peyton Pritchard off the bench. Both those guys went for 30 plus, and the Celtics did a great job defensively against the Lakers, again holding them to just 89 points. Ben, what does this game tell you more about, the Celtics or the Lakers?
I think for me, it's got to be the Lakers. I somehow for Pickles predicted the Lakers to win. I thought the Lakers could possibly make it close, but no, they still got blown out somehow. And they had LeBron, Luca Reeves playing, which I was like, this big three, that's pretty good, obviously, the Lakers. But, like we said before of them, it's shown in this game, they're like a top heavy team. Like those guys were putting up some points and stuff, but really behind them, there just wasn't a whole lot at all from other guys. Just once again, not great depth, not great defense. Same thing there we've talked about before with the Lakers, and yeah, Aiden struggled in this one, only 4 points. Kadard had 9. He was like the fourth leading scorer in the Lakers in that game with 9, and they got out rebounded to this game, and the Celtics just looked like the better team. They couldn't slow down Pete and Pritchard or Brown. They didn't have the answers really for those guys defensively. That's just tough again for LA.
Yeah, the Lakers, it continues to blow my mind how you can be now 12 games above 500, fifth in the West, in the battle to try to get home court in the West, and they have a negative net rating and negative point differential in the league. Like, Nick, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense here, and it's just crazy that it continues to happen. But these losses, it feels like there's been a lot of them this year for the Lakers, and all their losses kind of feel like the same sort of variety like this.
Yeah, okay. So just looking at the last month or so, they lose to the Celtics by double digits, beat the Clippers by 3, beat the Mavericks by 20, lose to the Spurs by double digits, lose to the Thunder by 9, beat the crappy Warriors, beat the crappy Nets, lose to the Knicks by 12. So every good team they play, they lose to by double digits. Every bad team they play, they either win a close one or win going away. But yeah, I think it says more about the Lakers and the fact, like I said, they lose to the good teams and they sneak them out versus the bad ones. In this game, like you could see the ball movement from the Celtics versus like the stagnant sort of one-on-one play from the Lakers. Like Celtics got good shots almost every possession, whereas the Lakers looked to force or turned it over or didn't make as many passes per possession. And like I turned it on, I think I watched the beginning of the second half and it was still a single digit lead at that point, and I'm like, this is going to be a 16 to 17 point game by the end of it, and it was even more than that. So
Yeah, it really is crazy. Yeah, just more to your point there. They have lost their last 6 games against teams that are legit playoff teams right now, top 6 in their respective conferences. And yeah, Boston by 22, San Antonio by 28. That game they had no one playing, if I'm not mistaken. So that was the game where Wemby had like 35 in the first half. which was crazy. Yeah, the Thunder by 9, losing to the Knicks by 12, the Cavs by 30. I mean, it's just not competitive games here. So, I'm already looking ahead here. We're going to come in a week here. Their next 5 games are against the Magic, the Suns, the Warriors, the Kings, and the Pelicans. They'll probably win all 5 of them, or at least they should. We'll see what happens with the Suns. And if the Steph Curry can come back for the Saturday primetime game, but people will be like, man, hey, the Lakers are getting hot. But again, they're just they're playing these bad teams. We're kind of seeing a consistent rhythm here. What do you guys think is the road to the Lakers being a contending team again? Is there any chance that they could turn it on this season, make a run this season, or do you think there has to be changes made in the off season?
Well, for this season, it's like other guys, as I mentioned, behind top 3, they got to somehow step it up. And really, as a whole team, they just got to be better defensively. They're not the best as a whole team defensively. Got to get more physical in that end. Got to make things more uncomfortable there for, the opposing team's top players are playing. But I think, it's more so things are going to have to improve in the off season for them to have a better chance, with a big focus on just trying to build an even better team there around Luka that, fits around Luka. And I especially think they should think about defense with the Lakers. Bring in some guys that could play some good defense, but could also provide some solid offense, solid 3-point shooting. I feel like I've said that before about the Lakers.
Well, yeah, because it's just non-existent. I mean, the defenders they have on their team, you have Marcus Smart, who in this game goes 0 for 7, 0 for 5 from 3, so it doesn't provide, any offense on that end. Jared Vanderbilt's not a threat from outside. Rui hasn't been that great recently, and they're your defensive guys. That's really it on this team. So we'll see if they can make any moves when we get to the offseason, but still a whole other rest of the regular season to see where they can end up in the standings. Final game here to go over. Let's go back to the Saturday primetime game where we had a great one between the Houston Rockets and the New York Knicks. A game that was definitely a game of runs throughout. And Houston looked great in the third quarter. They really dominated the third quarter. They were guarding Jalen Brunson extremely well, not allowing him to really get going. But the Rockets blew an 18-point lead in the fourth quarter, turning it over 8 or 9 times, and New York was able to come back and win it 108-106 off of a Jalen Brunson go-ahead shot with 30 seconds to go. So, Nick, where do you want to go with this one? I mean, I think the story here is the Rockets, really blowing the lead in the fourth quarter because they just couldn't generate any clean offense.
Yeah, I wasn't able to catch this one. I was busy. We were busy at work Saturday night doing parking cars, but I was checking in on the score, and I'm like, oh, Rockets are winning. Rockets are winning. Rockets are winning by a lot. And then fourth quarter comes, and I checked in, and it was like a tie game at that point. I'm like, what the heck could have happened here? But it's the same thing that you've been saying with the Rockets all year, is that they don't have a point guard. Miles, you've been saying all year, and you said that come playoff time, like the Fred VanVleet injury, you think is going to be a big thing for them. And I think that's kind of why, obviously, they had 9 to 10 turnovers at the end of the game here in crunch time when point guard play is important, but also why we're not really considering them as on the level of Denver and OKC, and like I said, with San Antonio with the outside chance, just because they don't have the experience. We know they're good, but we don't talk about Houston in that area, and I think if they had Fred VanVleet, I don't know if that would be the case.
Yeah, Ben, what do you think about that? You kind of agree with the sort of situation that the Rockets are in this season?
Yeah, I think just that Fred VanVleet injury, right? It's been unfortunate, and I just think at the end of the third quarter, oh, the Rockets could have this game. I mean, they got the answers here to stop Brunson. I thought they were out toughening them. They had the toughness and they had the toughness to hopefully pull it out. But no, the Knicks came back and somehow won. And yeah, the playing at home, MSG helped them a bit. You know, those fans really got loud, and that helped the Knicks. Made it difficult on the Rockets, of course, but disappointing once again for Houston. It's fortunate they just struggled in clutch time once again, which has been a struggle, you know, throughout the year in multiple games for them. And even if they could have just, you know, not allowed the Knicks like more towards the beginning of the fourth, that game to start going on a run, they still maybe could have held on, even if things weren't going totally the best of the last few minutes. And yeah, the turnovers could be costly, and Slick said, and that was fortunate for them. And hey, and they're a pretty good defensive team. And I was surprised that they just lost answers there. Brunson and Towns, you know, did their stuff, and they somehow didn't really have an answer anymore. Next, I guess, figured something out to me, what I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just picked up their energy and they were more aggressive with the Rockets because they are a turnover prone team. I mean, you're right, Ben. I mean, the Rockets had the answers for Brunson really throughout the first 3 quarters of the game. I mean, Brunson had only like 2 made baskets going into the fourth quarter, which, that's really a death sentence for the New York Knicks, who were also, by the way, coming off of that beatdown against the Pistons in their previous game on Thursday. So this ended up being a huge win for New York. I mean, imagine if they lose this game. I mean, that'd be, horrible loss, but they end up getting it. And the Rockets, it's going to be, something that is a big question going forward. I know our guy Jackson Goglin, who I'm sure we'll have on the podcast a little bit later, but he was furious after that because they don't have a point guard. I mean, the Amen Thompson is the guy that they run at the point guard spot. Reed Shepherd is the backup point guard, but he didn't even really play a whole lot in those crunch time minutes. Aaron Holiday didn't sniff the floor, and there were never really any reports or anything about the Rockets pursuing point guard help. And I personally think that's because they recognize that even though they have Kevin Durant, they still are so young. And if they had Fred VanVleet back next season, then the problems we're talking about really don't exist. But I'm sure as a Rockets fan, it has to be a little bit frustrating, in that situation.
Yeah, and Reed Shepard and Ahman haven't been able to really fill that role in the way that some people thought they might have. And, well, yeah, we'll have to just see how it looks with Fred next year.
Yeah, but of course, still a long way to go. But even like tonight, I mean, they're gonna get a nice bounce back when they're playing the tanking Utah Jazz. Larry Markkinen is playing, but against the Utah Jazz, the Rockets with 7 minutes to go have 21 turnovers against the Utah Jazz, who are not a good defensive team. Obviously, they and not a good team at forcing turnovers. So definitely something that they need to clean up. They continue, especially after that fourth quarter against New York. They still lead the league in turnovers and clutch time. They average nearly 2 turnovers in clutch game in the clutch play, which is the final 5 minutes of a game, of a 5 point game or less. So certainly something to look out for. But again, Rockets, it's one of those situations where when they get up, normally they're able to take care of the victory. They just weren't able to against New York. But because of all the victories, the double-digit victories that they've had, they should, end the regular season in a good, solid spot in the standings. I think it may just come down to the matchup they get in the first round to see if they can really make any noise. Like if they played the Lakers in the first round, I'd probably go Houston right now, but LA does have the star power, but you never know. I mean, I think it just depends on the matchup that the Rockets get.
Yeah, I agree.
Before we get out of here, of course, a couple big games coming up between podcasts here. We will be back on Friday to talk about the results from these ones, but on Tonight, as this comes out, New York at Cleveland, 7:30 on Peacock and Eastern Conference Showdown. And then the Pistons have another test coming up on Wednesday when OKC comes to town, 7:30 on ESPN. The Thunder still depleted. We'll see if they can get any of those guys back for that game. But Ben, I guess starting off with the Knicks Cavs game, is there anything particularly from those two teams that you're looking to see, as this is the first time that these two teams are facing since the Cavs made all those moves at the deadline?
Well, it's gonna be interesting because it's kind of hard to predict what could happen in that one. But I'm gonna have to make a prediction tomorrow, I'm guessing. But uh, I think for the Cavs, it's just you know I'm going to be really looking to see can Mobley bounce back somehow, rebound well, have a good bounce back game potentially, which I think he could match up better against the Knicks, hopefully, and he can Jared Allen, do all right with Towns and Mitchell Robinson this time around. Well, I, I don't know. I hope that our bigs can do better, bounce back. It's what I'm guessing is going to happen, and can and of course I'm going to be looking to see who can you know come up the most clutch down the stretch, Brunson or Mitchell or Harden. It'll be a lot of fun to see who's making those big explosive offensive plays between those guys and determine who could potentially win the game.
Yeah, Nick, what are you going to be looking for in the New York Cleveland game tonight?
Definitely the matchup between the bigs, Cat and Rob versus Mobley and Allen. It's always interesting to see our guys go against a good opponent in the front court like that. And then honestly, I think X factor is Sam Merrill for the Cavs. If he can get it going, a very good volume shooter, and that could be a huge impact. And then towards the end of the game, I'd like to see if Kenny, if it's a close game, if Kenny sticks with like experimenting with the lineups, or if he's like seen enough to like sort of want to not play Keon, not play Dennis if it's a close game down the stretch, and just run with the starting five instead. So I'll be watching for that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how the Cavs play with Harden and Mitchell there. I'm curious to see if they'll be able to get their way to the free throw line a little bit more, because I know Harden's free throw rate has been down since the trade a little bit. And overall, if the Cavs can just put it together for this game, I mean, something that really is going to hurt them coming down the stretch of the season from what happened earlier in the year is the fact that they played games early in the season against the Bostons, the New Yorks, the Torontos, when they were still sort of trying to figure themselves out a little bit. And because of that, they lost the season series or the head-to-head tiebreakers, I think, already in like all of those matchups. So they're not going to be able to have the head-to-head tiebreaker when it comes down to it by the end of the season if they all finish tied. But in these games to close out the season series, these are kind of must-win games for Cleveland to not only get the confidence that you can beat these teams with this new look roster, but also be a litmus test to see where you're at, where you compare to these other competitive teams in the East, and also to gain games against these teams, even if you don't finish tied. I mean, the Cavs' end of the regular season schedule, I want to say, is insanely easy as far as the amount of tanking teams that they're going to end up playing. So this stretch over the next 2 weeks may be the stretch that determines if they are the 2 seed or the 5th seed or the 4th seed or wherever they finish in the East. So that's definitely something I'll be watching. Then on Wednesday, this Thunder Pistons game. Ben, what are you going to be looking to see from both sides there?
That should be another fun one. I looking to see if the Thunder somehow just come on the road against the Pistons and just see, like, what is it going to come down to shooting in this game? I'm going to be looking for that because the Thunder shot it really well against the Cavs and it was enough to lift them over a win. But curious to see what the match with the shooting. Can Detroit bounce back and shoot it well? And that's enough to lift them to a win, or will OKC somehow plays a great defense and then their shooting's clicking again somehow, some stretches in the game, and that's enough to win it. I'm definitely going to be looking to see that, and also just gonna keep an eye on who's going to be the even more physical team. Could just come down to if it's close, who's even more physical, who's winning. More so the battle for getting steals or something on defense.
Yeah, Nick, how about you with that game on Wednesday?
I think, like Ben said, it's going to come down to 3-point shooting. If J-Dub and Shea and Caruso are still out, like that's going to be how OKC gets most of their points. And if Detroit struggles to shoot it like they have all year, then they're not gonna have. Then they're gonna struggle in this game. So I think that's probably the biggest X factor, along with like Cade and just his scoring ability, like getting to the free throw line if he can control the game against a really good defense. I'll be watching to see how he does against them.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how Cade Cunningham plays on Wednesday, coming off of this game against kind of a similarly built team as far as a whole lot of guards that feel like they're kind of built in a lab to defend these all-star guards, like kind of like how they were with Harden and Mitchell. I think Cunningham's kind of the same way, and coming off of a 5 for 26 game. How's he going to respond after that type of performance? Now having to still go against a Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, all those guys to try to stop them. And if Jalen Duren can, crash the glass against Hartenstein, Chet Holmgren, and the matchups down low, I think should be a very fun matchup. I mean, crazy enough, that could definitely be the finals matchup here if things keep going. I mean, they are the two best teams in the NBA record-wise, so we'll see. We'll see if that's potentially a finals preview. We may have already seen it today with the Pistons and the Spurs. A whole lot of potential finals previews. They were talking about it with the Cavs Thunder earlier in the week. Well, Nuggets Celtics is Wednesday as well. So whole lot of big matchups coming up this week.
Yeah, it's heating up, man. It's a fun time to be an NBA fan. I'm excited for the rest of the year.
For sure. But that is going to be it for us here. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.